Hello. Okay, I'm back to answering emails. I don't know who this one's from. Didn't write that down at the time, but anyway, this person, whomever they are, wrote, "Hi there. I've often heard/read that anorexia is partly a genetic illness, and therefore the brain will automatically be triggered to restrict more when the body is put into caloric deficit. I read an interesting blog post for a woman in her 20s who had to move back with her parents for a few days, having lost weight after the flu. She needed her mum to feed her Ben and Jerry's and pies, so not to let her brain be triggered back to anorexia. Smart. I finally began a wholehearted recovery at the beginning of this year, regaining a regular period, nice, and full health by the summer. At the beginning of autumn, I went travelling for a little while and have done a lot of mental recovery work and was completely comfortable around food and ate all that was given to me. But what I could get wasn't enough. When I went home, I noticed I'd lost a bit of weight and the anorexia began getting loud after having regular menstruations since spring. I missed a period in October and really restricted. I slapped myself out of it and I gained my period back again this month, but I'm definitely not in the same strong mental place I was in the summer, which sucks because travelling itself was so much fun. Next spring, I'm travelling again and I will be doing some mountain trekking and volunteering as refuge. I know that I remain healthy, but that it may sometimes be hard for me to stay above calorie deficit in some of these situations. After my work travels, I'm going to university in September and I don't want any eating disorder to slap me back in the face. I'm bad at science and I don't really know if I'm thinking correctly. Do you have any thoughts on this? Will the disordered brain be automatically triggered after unintentional insufficient energy? Such a good question, and I'm glad you asked it. So here's the thing. What I found was that for a good couple of years, so the first couple of years where I really gained weight and I'd done really well, for that first couple of years, my body was really sensitive to energy deficit. If I even accidentally didn't eat enough, I could kind of feel it. And that sensitivity, the longer I stayed fully recovered, that sensitivity got less. So I know now that if I unintentionally went into energy deficit, I don't think much really. I think it would take a lot for me. I think I'd have to drastically lose weight for anorexia to be triggered. My body isn't as sensitive to it. But in the first couple of years, if I just accidentally ate a little bit less than I needed in a day, it's like I could feel it. I could feel like, maybe I should start exercising again. I could just feel stupid shit like that coming back that I knew was a sign that my body was going like, is there scarcity of food again? Do I need to go? Do I need to migrate? It makes sense if you think about it, because your body's really smart, and if you've just been into a famine, then it's gonna be on the lookout for more famine. Of course it is. And then when there's not been a famine for like 5 years, it's gonna be like, things are probably fine. I don't have to worry about that as much. But if that famine was 6 months ago, it's going to be on the lookout for another one coming. It's going to be really fast to trigger that response if there's any indication that there's food scarcity, i.e. you go into deficit because you didn't eat enough, or you didn't even know that you weren't eating enough because you were traveling and you thought you were, but sometimes it isn't unintentional. So my advice there is that, yes, you're absolutely right. Your body is going to be sensitive to caloric deficit, intentional or not. The good news is that it won't be as sensitive forever. You won't have to worry about it quite as much. But having said that, as a protectionary thing, I think that I think I've just become accustomed to being very, very smart about making sure I have enough food. And if I'm in any doubt, just eat some more, just to make sure. So that's something that's probably good advice for life, isn't it? Just to stay on the safe side. I mean, what harm does that do? Just eat more food. It's great. I forgot what else I was going to say. Oh yeah. So it gets a little bit less sensitive as the years go on, I found. But also, in the meantime, when you're traveling, just be aware of this. Be like, I need to make sure that I am stuffing my face as much as I can to ensure that this doesn't come back, like you said, and slap you in the face and then fuck up your university stuff and all that, things like that. You don't want that to happen. It's such a low, it's such an easy thing to do. Just eat more food. It really is. If you're fully recovered and or you're at least getting there, it should be relatively easy. I'll just have another chocolate bar today, or I'll just have another, like, a couple of pieces of toast every morning. I'll just have another milkshake. I'll just always be like, I'll just have another one. I'll just have another thing. That's really easy to do, especially when your brain's not giving you much resistance to doing that because you're recovered or getting towards it. So it's really easy to just eat a little bit more than you think that you need, and build in some checks, build in some checkpoints. You can use other people. Like, I definitely, even in the first couple of years, even when I was really, really well covered, but if my husband ever sort of was like, sometimes he'd be like, oh, you probably have been doing a little bit more this week, or, you know, if we've been traveling, he'd be like, you know, like, maybe, you know, because we're buying food, sometimes they don't serve as much as the portions that you would serve yourself at home, so we probably should go and get an extra thing or something like that. Like, he kind of helped me stay on top of it, even when I was thinking, like, you know, even when I was eating really well, having someone else to say, like, oh yeah, let's go and do this, even when you're not particularly hungry. And then I'd be like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's just make sure I've eaten enough. Let's make, like, so that there's no doubt whatsoever. Because if there is any doubt, you can just eat more food. It's really simple, and that completely protects it. And if you think about the kind of like risk factor there, like, eat more food, you'll be fine. Don't and accidentally eat too much and anorexia comes back and completely ruins your fucking life. Just make sure that you are, even if you don't feel hungry, just take care of it. Just be like, I'm just going to eat a little bit more than, even if I don't feel hungry, even if I'm completely recovered, just to be on the safe side, because it's easy to do that.